Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hello there, and welcome to a special watch-along of Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, with us, the hosts of Jedi Alliance. I am one of your hosts. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw, and here, as always...
I'm your other host, the Internet Soapbox Mark Donica. You can follow me on Twitter at SoapboxMark. Joining us today, the wonderful, the fan favorite, our favorite, Mr. Mike Black.
Yeah!
Ooh, got a little metal.
It's very, very metal. For those of you who are watching with us live, we had some technical difficulties. We started over. If you are watching this years from now, if it is the year 2027... ignore what I just said.
It's inconsequential.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. So we've done a bunch of the watch-alongs for all of the Star Wars movies, the prequels, A New Hope. We're going to do Return of the Jedi next week in this year, 2015, and in 2027 you can watch. And for those movies, we've talked a little bit about, when we watched the prequels, we talked a little bit about all of this sort of harsh opinions, both directions about whether they're good or bad. We talked about what we liked, what we didn't like. For A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, we're talking a little bit about how they work in relationship to the prequels. We're talking about kind of seeing them again with adult eyes, since a lot of us fell in love with these movies as kids, no matter how old we are now. And we're also just trying to talk a little bit about, like, the themes of them. And for me, I think the main theme of The Empire Strikes Back is just sort of doubt, of not knowing what's going on, not knowing exactly who people are, who you can trust, all of those things. We also like to kick off these watch-alongs by talking a little bit about our first experiences of the movie. So, Mike Black, what is your first experience of seeing Empire Strikes Back?
My very first experience was me and my older brother. I was like maybe 6 at the time. He took me to see it at a drive-in, which they like hardly exist now. But you get to sit in the car, and I remember having a Empire Strikes Back lunch pail already before the movie, so there were like spoilers all over it, and I was seeing how they tied in.
And you're like, this movie better live up to this pail.
And I was so into it, and I was real excited, but like a real kid, I kind of fell asleep right around when Han's getting tortured. So I missed the really important stuff at the end of the movie, and like kids at school had to catch me up on it, and they were like, "No, a hand got chopped off, and he said he's his dad." And I was like, "What? All of that happened?"
You're messing with me.
It was
and I happens to the best of us. Torture scenes are really quiet and sleepy, so it's easy to nod off.
I was like, "This is a good time to check out for a minute. What could I possibly be missing?" You know.
All of it.
And Mark, what was your first experience?
Well, I can never remember a time in my life where I didn't know what happened in Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Like as I mentioned on first appearance on the show, like this has always been in the collective consciousness from before I was born. So I remember watching Empire like as a kid and not being surprised by the Vader thing at the end. So it's weird. It's like I always knew.
That Vader was Luke's dad. I was extremely young. I mentioned on A New Hope. I was very, very young when I saw A New Hope. Still, obviously, pretty young when I saw Empire Strikes Back. But old enough to anticipate and wonder what was going to happen and be so excited about it and have the revelations be fresh. And it just made a huge everything about the film. The story, the visual aesthetic made a huge impact to me. So a lot of times when I like something in life and I think about why do I like the way that person is walking on stairs, it'll be, because it's kind of like the way somebody walked on stairs in The Empire Strikes Back. So it is deep, deep inside me, and we hope it will be deep inside you as well as you watch along with us. I know what I said, and it's okay.
Good.
It was very PG-13, although this movie is PG. We are watching the most recent version, the most recent digital release and Blu-ray, and we will count down and get it started.
Ready to start. All right, so follow me, everybody, with a 1, 2, 3, go.
Star Wars.
And I know we've said it before, but I am going to miss the 20th Century Fox at the beginning.
Yeah, for when The Force Awakens comes out, I still think there's going to be some little nod to it or some very strong pre-theme cue.
Yeah, I think so too. I also don't think that the audiences will let that go without it happening.
No, I mean, can you imagine if it's just like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away comes up with no other sound?
It'd be different.
Yeah.
It'd be new.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if Disney will get a fanfare out of this.
Yeah, I mean, they've been so savvy about everything else, and they know that that's one big kind of fan thing. There's only so much they can do about it. I'm sure they'll do something about it.
Yeah.
For fans who are seeing this for the first time in 1980, Episode 4, A New Hope, had not been labeled Episode 4 or A New Hope in the initial crawl. So I think it's really cool to think of people seeing Episode 5 and going, what? What exactly does that mean?
Yeah. I remember I didn't notice that till it was on cable, and I'd seen it a few times, and then I was like, Episode 5, what? And then there was like the school liar, the kid at school that would just lie to you about everything. He told me that there was like, George Lucas wrote 3 books a long time ago.
Yeah.
But, and he published them, but there are only like 100 in the world. So try and track them down,
I wonder if schools still have liars like that, or if they're just kids just whip out their smartphones when they're 6 and like, no, you're a liar, actually.
Yeah.
You're on my liar database.
Well, the liars have just moved to the internet.
Yeah. And they change Wikipedia.
Yeah.
The first line of the scroll, "It is a dark time for the rebellion," is the first thing in the movie that I will note that has stuck with me for a long time, because I think about that when things aren't going well in my life.
Yes.
It is a dark time for my personal rebellion.
Like when most of us tried to pre-order tickets for the next
It's
one.
like,
Yes, it is a dark time for the rebellion. And I love that in the classic trilogy, every movie starts very specifically with a Star Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that the sequels have something that is similar to that, where it is a very specific ship.
Yeah.
Prequel trilogy, it's all a good guy ship of some kind. But it's not the same kind of ship every time.
Stuff like this was over my head when I was a little kid and saw it. I just knew general evil was happening.
Oh, yeah, but you had no idea kind of what was happening?
Yeah, it was
Evil
like
antics.
it's some sort of evil robot.
Yeah, and I think
Had
that's
no idea what his agenda was.
Rising from hell.
Yeah. Making cool noises. And I think we've talked about that before on other watch-alongs. No matter how old you are now, most people saw Star Wars when they were pretty young.
Yeah.
So some of the things in Star Wars that are like this is the weird space version of real-life stuff,
Right,
you
yeah.
get backwards and you eventually go like, oh, that's how things work in the real life. I thought it was just from Star Wars.
It is kind of funny, no matter how realistic they tried to make it, I still would rather live there than here any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to the romance of it. Like, almost
Yeah.
everything we see on Hoth is generally unpleasant for our heroes,
Right.
but
They'll never
it
find
still
them there.
looks like fun.
Let's go to where we're at a strategic disadvantage, and nobody likes the place.
Yeah.
They'll never find us here.
In my adult life, I have worked for many non-profit organizations, and I consider the Rebellion like a non-profit organization. They never quite have enough money or resources, so the fact that they just got set up on Hoth, like they just set up their new 501c3, and they're out immediately. It's so painful to me.
Grab the hard drives.
Yeah. Send a letter to our donors. Smell is a theme in Empire Strikes Back, too.
Smell
Lots of
this.
mentionings of smelling things.
Yeah.
When you guys first saw this as kids, were you frightened by the Wampa pop-up?
Terrified.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like the idea that anything could slap you that hard.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that?
That is kind of a childhood nightmare that you'd turn around and a monster would slap you
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
And like he drags you off with other plans. He doesn't just eat you right away. I didn't like that.
You would have preferred
I'd
to be
rather
devoured
a
on
qui-
spot.
A quick death.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is so does such a great job of continuing this sort of lived-in look of Star Wars, but also it looks like they're just barely getting things set up.
Yeah. More than anyone else, Harrison Ford lives in that world when he's acting. He
Yeah.
he seems so like he's lived there his whole life.
Yes.
You know?
Like, yeah, there's no wink or nod of
Right.
anything meta
It's
about this.
Very authentic, no matter who he's talking to or what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's probably taken multiple laps on every set just to make sure he knows every inch and corner.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look weird.
Yeah. He's just a very good, very natural actor and fits this character so well. So a lot of people obviously consider Empire Strikes Back the best movie in the Star Wars trilogies. And I want to talk a little bit as we go about why people think that. For me, I agree that I think it's the best made film, and I think some of it is just how much character work is done, that every shot, every line delivery, all of the blocking, everything just gives weight to what the characters feel.
Yeah.
Especially in these opening sequences.
That and Lawrence Kasdan's script.
Yeah.
You know, it is really a thing of beauty because it's so old-fashioned in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Like this scene in particular, like this could be in a film like Casablanca as much as, you know, in this sort of film.
Yeah. And I know a lot of Lee Brackett's script wasn't used and has some stuff in it that to our sort of modern eyes is weird space stuff that's not quite right for Star Wars. But also, I mean, she was a noir writer, and I think some of that sort of noir darkness and themes are in her draft.
Yeah.
And literal darkness. That the last shot of them under the light had Leia basking in the light, where Han was just sort of poking through the darkness here and there.
Well, even look at the way they're lit right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And obviously, great sort of old-style 30s and 40s movie romance relationship between
his girl
Han and
Friday
Leia.
sort of dialogue that, you know.
Yeah, but at the same time, kind of like there feels like weights and stakes. It feels like the characters really cared about each other and are concerned about what's going on in this weird space movie on an ice planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nice literal interruption of C-3PO. That was one of my favorite collecting cards.
Yeah.
The trading cards are just Han putting his hand over C-3PO's mouth. Yeah. Yeah, so at the same time that Harrison Ford or Han Solo is clearly very concerned about his friend, like just great little comedy beats, easily thrown over, not belabored.
They're friends.
Yeah, so all of this gives great weight to how I'll see you in hell, to how important Luke is to Han.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to think that Han is a hero and he would go out after just about anybody, but the sort of like, you're going to freeze to death, it doesn't matter, I'm for sure going out after my friend, really solidifies how much they mean to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think reinforces that we're right to love them so much.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sweet face you got there, Luke.
Yeah, and all of the filmmakers have always said that the Wampa attack is not here to cover the fact that Mark Hamill had a car accident and has some slightly different facial features. His face is kind of structured a little differently than in A New Hope. And everybody's always said that it was not none of this was put in here for that, which makes sense to me because this scene does the great pulpy adventure, keeping all of the adventure going, but then also showing us something about the character, specifically showing how far Luke has come in his use of the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also there was that early concept art that showed Luke wearing a mask, and I think that was meant to parallel Vader.
Interesting, yeah.
You know, that lightsaber, I think it was Ralph McQuarrie that did it.
Yeah, and just before this, we had some special edition shots of the Wampa, like there, eating the Tauntaun, which I think is some of the best special edition shots. It looks perfectly in line with the rest of the film, and
it's practical.
Yeah, it's practical effects, and does make it really clear what's going to happen to Luke.
When in doubt, chop off an arm.
That's the Jedi way.
Yep. Luke has learned well from its master Obi-Wan.
Which really, it is aggressive, but still somewhat passive. It's not chopping a head off.
Yeah, like you can still slap random people on Tauntauns and drag them back to your lair to eat them. You can still function, Wampa.
Right.
It's just you're not going to eat me. Tauntauns always sound great. One of the best sounding animals in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, they sound like you expect them to sound. When you look at them, you know.
Perfect.
My friend called them camel dogs when we were kids because he didn't know what they were actually called. He's like, "Get the camel dogs." And I know what you mean.
One of the creatures coming up in this movie, I believe, by canon, is still just called Space Slug.
Yeah.
So fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're called Tauntauns because it's a great name. Better than Camel Dog.
Well, arguably. It's a little bit more in terms of branding, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a dark road to go down when you're just going to name all Star Wars things after kind of the two animals they look like.
This was
worked for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
This was me walking to Gateway High School every day in
Yeah,
Colorado.
yeah, I grew up in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's very, very freezing cold, lots of snow, and that shot of Luke trying to walk captures what it's like when the weather is just like, no, you aren't going to... Not only is the snow going to make you walk like a drunk, but the cold is going to attack your face.
Yeah.
You have no business existing.
Just
it's like the universe just
punishing.
saying no to you.
We're throwing wind chill into.
Yeah.
See, man, I was in California. All of this just made it more fantastical because it didn't seem real. None of this looks real.
So
It was very real to us.
painfully real.
So painfully real.
It was cool having Hoth in your backyard, though, when you were a kid and had Star Wars toys.
Yeah, was for a while. And this is a great revelation to me when I realized that this character, Major Bren Derlin, is played by John Ratzenberger of Cheers and Pixar fame.
Almost voiced over seemingly by Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, it's a weird Boston English accent, it sounds like. I think this scene goes to a lot of what we were saying before about just sort of the weight of how it's shot, how it's acted, that makes you feel like the stakes are high for the characters.
Yeah. Absolutely love that line. And the way it's delivered, everything about it.
The turn back and great, just physical body acting from Anthony Daniels to have that little collapsed shrug.
And just the blocking and where everybody was in that scene and the depth and everything, just that's filmmaking.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I do love that in the Star Wars universe, droids are very different from robots in every other sci-fi universe. They have feelings and purpose and stuff.
And they have feelings and perspective, and there's never any sort of like, oh, should we turn their emotion chip on? It's just like, it's always like, oh, they have personalities.
Yeah.
I love the way he pronounces Dagobah, continuing the tradition of people say proper nouns slightly different.
Yoda.
And Mike, when you saw this as a kid, did you feel like you understood what was happening with Obi-Wan Kenobi, that his spirit was appearing to Luke, or?
I felt like, in a weird sort of way, that he was so powerful that he was kind of manipulated Han. Manipulated might not be the right word, but like made sure that he was aware that Luke hadn't checked in and like knew to ask and stuff like that. When there's that line in the first one about, when you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
I really felt like he'd become so integral in the Force and such a major part of it that he was now shaping events so that they would unfold the way they needed to.
I like that. I feel like Empire brings up a lot of fun questions like that. There's a line later where he talks about what he can and can't do.
Yeah.
Which we'll come back to.
And there was also like Leia realizing that Luke hadn't checked in could be an early hint that she's Force sensitive.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I mean, certainly that, if nothing else, that zoom-in shot of her face really does set up the shot later where she does hear Luke.
Yeah.
It's a very similar shot, very similar look on her face of her just sort of almost emotionally reaching out for connection to Luke.
I thought that line smelled bad on the outside.
It's a very good line, and it drives whole products.
So, and Han can use a lightsaber, which
super
means
cool.
anybody can.
Super cool. As an adult, when they finally put out a Hoth Han that had a lightsaber, I was like, finally, yes.
Yeah.
He should have always been a Hoth Han. Should have always had access. The adapting the speeders to snow, I've always wanted to see more clearly. There have been things like light speeders, maybe somewhere in canon that I've missed. I've always wanted to see non-snow speeders.
Just as a fun little aside, in the new Battlefront game, you can use these speeders on Sullust, which is a volcano planet.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, and they have all the similar uses, tow cables, lasers, all of that. But it was, I've always known these as snow speeders as opposed to the T-47.
Yeah.
Right.
So seeing them on that planet was just like mind blowing.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about that. We have to adapt them to the cold line.
Yeah, which is totally when I got my first car, which was a 1978 Ford Fairmont that I had in the early 2000s. I felt like I needed to adapt it to the cold because it would
At the chains.
it would fail if it was like 20 degrees, which it can be quite often.
Rogue 2 always seemed like the most confident man in the galaxy.
Yeah. I mean that's a really it's
found
really strange and cocky, but also gets to like they do really care about each other.
Sweet back
The
to diaper.
Back to tank, back to diaper. This is also an action figure I wanted for years, and then when it was
Yeah.
finally available, I had the epiphany of like I just got an
already
action
did
figure of Mark Hamill in a diaper. That's what this is, and I'm thrilled to own it. But just the speed of this film is amazing. How much just happened, and we're just introduced to like. There's no jargon to explain it. It's just like he's taking a health bath. You guys know, right?
Yeah, just the old health bath.
Trust that frightening droid.
The
Medical droid.
21B?
Yeah.
Yeah. And here we get into the last vestiges of the romantic triangle between Han, Luke, and Leia.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Okay, so from adult perspective, do we like the line "laugh it up, fuzzball,"
Oh,
or is
yeah.
it a little cheesy? Would we mock it had we heard it in the prequels?
For a PG movie, it's not so bad. There's a lot of name calling in here that's highly questionable.
There's a lot of space naming, yeah, and I feel like when we see it in other contexts, we maybe wouldn't like it, but it's delivered well. It sounds in universe.
Yeah, well, Laser Brain I was never a big fan
Yeah, I
of.
was gonna say,
yeah,
Laugh it up,
that's
fuzzball
even as
is
a
much
kid.
better.
And that's a pretty solid kiss.
Yeah, it's pretty. See, even Chewie said that looked a little creepy.
Yeah.
It's like everybody rushed into the room and now everybody left. It's just like, no, come.
I always thought that General Reekin here kind of sounded like he voiced Admiral Akbar in Return of the Jedi,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
don't think he did. Yeah, there's something about his face that just looks a little Admiral Akbar-y too. So when I saw the movie as a kid, it's kind of like General Reekin just went through some sort of transformation.
Became a Mon Calamari.
Yeah, and became a fish man. I think some of these shots of Leia in this command center made that new Force Awakens poster feel extra weighty to see her back in that sort of command grid.
Whee!
Were you guys scared of the probe droid when you first saw it, or was it?
No, its design is not
It's really-
frightening to me.
It's got the weird little grabby arms, but
that's weird. It's not scary, but it should be because it's really sinister. It's got little like spider leg arms.
It's
it should
more
be creepy.
unsettling than creepy,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, ugh.
or than scary.
What's it gonna do with those?
You can tell he's a general because he has the most cough drops of anyone.
I like that line too, where Leia is again the one who knows what's going on, which reinforces kind of her character that we know a little bit more from outside fiction, that she was really, really a part of the Senate and she knows the way the government works. Like I like that in the classic trilogy, she's always the one who knows what's really going on with the Empire.
They have her being a lot more hands-on in this one too, which I like.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, in these shots, there's a lot in Empire that just seems like a victory lap for ILM after they changed everything with A New Hope, and like you thought that was good. Look at all this.
When they showed this,
Superstar Destroyer.
Yeah.
What up, buddy?
Executor. Yeah. So yeah, a little ways in, we get to meet Vader. Another cool thing with the classic trilogy is they introduced a new kind of trooper and a new kind of TIE fighter every film. So we just saw a bunch of TIE bombers.
Love them.
And the way Vader is shot in this is better than in either of the other two films. He looks more imposing. He's flawless.
His armor, his
just the way
movements,
he's
his
lit.
shot. Yeah.
Every shot that they do with him matters.
Yeah, and like again, like these little establishing
Yeah.
shots that like everyone is terrified of him.
And even the way he uses his powers in this one.
Yeah.
It's a lot more forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Admiral Ozzel, played by Michael Sheard, who is in a lot of super cool Doctor Who episodes.
Oh.
I was lucky to do a show at a convention with him. I asked him to do a bit part, and I honestly can't remember what the point of the sketch was, but what he needed to do was throw a piece of meat at my face. And he was very happy to do it. It was a frozen piece of meat, and he just walked on and was like, "Hello, I'm Michael Sheard. I'm going to throw a piece of meat at this man," and he did. So I feel very honored.
I would have freaked out if I was Veers in that last shot.
Yeah.
Because Vader was like an inch from his face.
Right in his face.
Yeah.
Veers, ah! What? What do you want?
Yeah, I like seeing that 2-1B is chatty, but doesn't have as much personality as 3PO or R2.
Yeah. He's pre-med.
He's kind of a bore. He's a bore at cocktail parties, right?
He's a nurse droid, not a doctor droid.
Technically, he is the doctor droid. FX7 is the nurse droid. But it's true.
See, even when he's talking to this guy, it's so authentic and real.
No, some of like the weight of these characters really comes up in these shots right here, where they don't know what to say to each other, but they know they want to say something. Yeah, and it's really telling that Han is the one who comes up with the right thing to say, and it's such a caring thing. It's be careful. It's not a joking thing.
Yeah.
It just gives such weight and such stakes to their relationship and to the story.
Ooh.
I think Admiral Akbar was uncredited. I don't think they ever actually said who did his voice.
I think it is the actor who portrays him. But I looked it up a while ago to make sure it wasn't Riken, because I always thought it was General Riken. And it was so amazing to see Vader's meditation chamber, because it's basically like, oh, that's where he hangs out.
Yeah.
Vader has a bedroom. Cool. Where are his posters?
They're all on the ceiling. You can't see them.
His blacklight posters.
Hang in there.
His Led Zeppelin 3 poster. Hang in there.
Some bands used to listen to in the Clone War era.
I don't care.
Done.
I love the slight rushing of air sound that connects it to the choking that we saw in A New Hope.
Yeah.
I love the little gesture, which is clearly like, could you get rid of this body?
Yeah.
Could you drag this off?
Lord Vader's at it again.
I think Cliff Clavin, Major Bren Derlin, has a line coming up that sounds more like him. There's always a whiny doubter among the rebels.
Who
He doesn't really look
doesn't
like
have
he
a good
comprehends
read.
what's going on.
No.
You know you're a pilot, right?
Do I have to wear this on my head? That sounds a lot more like Cliff Clavin. All right, your station. Let's go. Yeah.
That's good.
And again, yeah, Leia really in command, which is awesome to see.
This is probably the worst job in the rebellion, ground assault
Yeah.
on Hoth.
Well, no, because like we can handle them, and then the walkers show up. I can say, being in this battle several times
in Battlefield.
Really, really, really hard. But it's really fun playing as the Empire. And no matter what side you're on in Battlefront for this, when you win, it's just like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah, I also just love the for the time the hubris of a big special effects battle against snow. Like,
Yeah.
just a few years ago, we cracked how to do an amazing space battle against black. Now, instead of repeating that, we'll just do it against white, which is
gray on
twice as
white.
hard.
Yeah.
Yay!
Ah, Dak.
And I feel like this little almost subplot with Luke and Dak, it's not super highlighted in the movie, but I think it is really there to show that Luke is cocky and does put people in danger.
Yeah.
In one line, we learn that Dak Ralter is young and enthusiastic and thinks he can take on the whole Empire, and then coming up here, Luke takes a risk and gets him killed.
And it was also, going back to Lost Stars again, hearing a little bit more about Dak from Thane's perspective.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was really interesting.
Yeah.
It made me go, oh, wait. Oh, that's Dak. That's crazy.
I just read the YA novel Weapon of a Jedi, and it's really good. Especially like if you're like me, Empire Strikes Back always makes me think about how has Luke's Force training been going in between the movies.
Yeah.
And it's set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and shows some really cool things with his contact with Obi-Wan and his progress using the Force. And
Cool,
it makes
cool, cool.
Empire Strikes Back make sense.
Because I wondered what of the three the three smaller novels to pick up. So
I really enjoyed Weapon of a Jedi. I'm going to read Moving Target, the Leia one, soon. Yeah, and I think of every scene I've ever seen in a movie, this is the one I've played in a video game the most.
and I don't mind repeating it over and over and over again.
It's always a difficult thing in a video game. Whatever mechanic they have, though, for launching the tow cables and then spinning around, it is always difficult to do.
Well, one thing I love is that there's a lot of criticism of this scene in that it's convenient that they have tow cables on these things and that, you know, they magically have enough of slack to wrap around the AT-ATs.
Yeah.
In actual wars, there were, like, defense mounds that were built up, and tanks couldn't get over them. And a farm boy figured out, put a plow on the front of the tank, and you can get through that way. So this is somewhat fact-based, you know.
Yeah.
And also shows at what length and what ingenuity they have to use instead of just brute strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
I think it's what's missing in a lot of sort of modern CGI spectacle of, like, the easy thing would just be big explosions, cool shots, and, like, the fact that it has to be that they do something different that launches our imaginations and video games for decades.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
cool.
they have this scene in both the new Disney Infinity and Battlefront, and they're both hard for different reasons.
Yeah. Is it hard to physically rotate?
I've never gotten one off in Battlefront, but they made it a little bit easier in Infinity.
Yeah.
They also, because everything's supposed to be toys, no matter what character you are, you can climb up the walker and open up its battery port and take the batteries out, which is a fun little cute thing, like you're playing with an actual toy.
Yeah.
But it's both fun. One more pass is this movie Stay on Target?
Yeah, one more pass. That hasn't really taken off in pop culture as much as Stay on Target has. It's not as useful, but yeah, cool to be able to see Wedge be heroic.
Yep. Wedge, who also made it through all three movies.
Yeah.
Yep. And we just passed where Luke should have held off, insisted on going, and got Dak killed.
What if Wedge is Kylo Ren? Sorry.
Get out.
Starting rumor.
Where's the trapdoor on this couch?
Wilhelm scream as I go down.
Yeah, and just the film, it makes you like the characters. It shows you how connected they are, how much they care about each other, and then just starting now, it just puts them in constant peril.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people will describe, like, the 3-act structure of a normal movie is introduce your character, put your character up a tree, throw things at him, and then Act 3 is get people down.
Right.
And since Empire Strikes Back is Act 2 of the trilogy, the whole movie is they're up in a tree with people throwing things at them.
And it's a hell of a tree.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really intense tree.
But I think it's another thing that makes it the best film is just how emotional it is.
Yeah.
A New Hope
none
has...
of that would matter if you didn't care about the characters, and they make that paramount, you know.
Right. And it's also just relatable because I think life is hard for everyone, and you always feel like you're just barely scrambling to get out the door to do the thing that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
In this movie, has a feeling the whole time it's like they just set up a base and they have to run from it, and they can't.
He just got to Dagobah.
Yeah, they just can't get a break.
Yeah.
Rogue 2.
He said tight and low. More blue lightning. Where would 1980s films be without blue lightning?
Luke should get used to that.
As a bit of an aside, speaking of blue things, the stun from episode 4, they used that in the most recent episode of Rebels.
Nice.
So they're trying to make that a little bit more of a thing
more prominent of a thing. Yeah. Because Mike, we were talking when we watched A New Hope how weird it is that some of these things are just like, some people thought this would be a good idea once for this one scene, and now it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a massive
that gets reused and is
And they and again, I keep going back to Battlefront, but in the queue for the test play at E3, they made the hallways of Hoth of the Hoth base.
Awesome.
So and you would feel like the rumbles of the AT-AT above you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it was kind of a cool placemaking thing.
I
felt like I was there.
Oh, that's awesome. I always notice things when I watch the movies that I've never noticed. We've been seeing in these shots the other protocol droid guy, which I believe is K-3PO. It has been destroyed. I've never noticed that K-3PO died in the attack.
Ugh.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And hearing how much they used the score for before a big scene, during a big scene, and for the aftermath is again masterful.
Yeah, like just the way the music is woven in.
How it swells in, swells out.
I think this Luke action has good rhythms with the kind of things we see Anakin do both in the prequels and in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Where he comes up with inventive, weird, cocky ways
very risky,
to do things.
Crazy plans.
And then he just gets stomped on.
But rewarded for them.
Yeah.
Know? Now I forget, does the special edition have 3PO ripping off the Wampa warning?
No, because we were watching the special edition. That's available. The Wampa subplot of talking about our characters having to deal with crap. There's the Wampa subplot where they're attacking the base. That's available in like the deleted scenes. You can watch.
Yeah.
It.
Okay.
I've always loved that shot of that poor snowspeeder just kind of getting swatted away with laser fire.
That guy looks like Sting.
You mean General Veers, Julian Glover?
Yeah.
General Veers.
Sting Veers. It's actually his first name.
Yeah, there's the door.
Yeah, and I think that there's more to what...
gloss over it here.
Yeah, because the Wampas were attacking the base, and 3PO is ripping off the warning sign so that the Imperials
I do remember them using that, though, in Shadows of the Empire, the old Nintendo 64 game.
Yeah.
There was a door that if you opened it, there were like three
bunch
Wampas
of Wampas
in there.
Yeah, well, a bunch of. At that time, you had so little control over the video games. 3 felt like...
3 was a bunch.
Yeah, I can't deal with this.
And that was a force to be reckoned with at that time.
Love the snowtroopers.
Yeah, the snowtroopers look amazing. I like in The Force Awakens that they're just rolling out a bunch of different kind of troopers right off the bat. Come on. Again, like great moments of comedy amidst the high stakes. I've always liked the nickname Goldenrod for C-3PO. Okay, so
very relatable.
Yeah, very relatable, very funny. But again, if we saw this as an adult, if there was something like that in The Force Awakens where the Millennium Falcon sounds exactly like a car trying to start and failing, would that be too on the nose for us?
Not for me, because they set that up in the first movie.
Yeah, about how it's a piece of junk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's relatable.
Yeah.
So having it be... It's like, oh, it's kind of like my car. Then you can have that thing of...
Yeah.
And Han has always been very much... And it's a theme that runs through Indiana Jones as well, where it's the best of luck, worst of luck sort of character.
Yes. Yeah, and that's just downright Shakespearean, that sort of setup of, you are going to be wrong. Like, yeah, in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah, you can just imagine how angry Vader must be. So I think people have had plot hole problems with this of, like, how is it easy for Luke to get off the planet? I think that this shot is showing that he's going to a different part of the planet, and the whole Empire is focusing on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, or the rebels, you know, the huge ships there.
Yeah.
You know.
And an X-Wing has better maneuverability than the transport ships.
Yeah, Luke is one of probably a dozen or so X-Wings leaving at that time.
And I want to just think that they're on the other side of the planet pursuing the other rebels and Millennium Falcon.
Like, if you flipped it, you wouldn't be like, oh, let's get that one TIE fighter.
Yeah.
That's the one we want. You know?
Oh, sure. It sounds so simple.
Yeah. And it makes it's interesting to think of the connection between Vader and Luke, that Vader is not so sensitive to Luke's presence yet that he can just, like, sense, no, we need to go over there. He's on this side of the planet.
Right.
I think there's also something a little, like, meta-tragic about, like, we love these characters, and to see them split up and have to go their own ways. I mean, like, obviously serves narrative purpose, but also just you kind of want your friends to stick together.
Yeah.
Instead of have to split up and go their own way. Makes them seem and feel more vulnerable. Yeah, and I feel like this just fulfilled the promise of how cool Han Solo was. Han Solo certainly got to do cool things in A New Hope, but it was more like he exuded cool.
Yeah, this
and
was
here
like,
is him actually doing it.
Oh, it's not all bragging. He's actually good at his job. When they did that giant scale model Millennium Falcon toy, that's one of the features on it, is that the hyperdrive will occasionally short out.
Oh, like you pull the button and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It
Most of the time it works, but every now and again it won't.
Yeah. Coming up on one of my favorite lines in the classic trilogy of Han's. That line. That's super relatable. I don't know how we're going to get out of this one.
What'd you call me?
The music here is perfect.
Yeah. I think that is probably, for when this movie came out, I think that was every dad's favorite line.
Yeah.
Something so my dad just loved that line. I know Alexis, our frequent guest, has talked about her father loving that line.
I think it has a lot to do with backseat driving. That may be what dads like about it.
I think you should turn left here. Nope. Trust me.
Yeah, and just that desire to be like, and just really cool to see, like, the scale of things, of, like, we're in an asteroid field, but now the asteroids are actually so big that this huge ship is...
Yeah, it has canyons in it.
Yeah. And if you read Lost Stars, which are often on about, there's nice filling in of this scene as well. And just great eye candy. You could just watch the Falcon fly forever. And it has headlights like a car. Yeah, so there we were talking a little bit about this sort of theme of doubt and never knowing where you are or what you're doing. We got that almost explicitly in those lines of, like, I hope you know what you're doing. You're like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And Luke is going to Dagobah utterly on just a ghost told him to, and he's pretty sure this is the right idea to abandon his friends in the rebellion. But he doesn't know what he's getting into or where he's going.
Whoops.
I do remember liking not really knowing what Yoda was.
Like not knowing exactly what kind of an alien he was, or...
Right. Like, even I had, like, the Empire Strikes Back lunchbox with Yoda on it, but I didn't know that was Yoda. I thought it was just a little guy.
Right, it could have just been like a background
one of
creature.
Any other
yeah.
aliens. I was really expecting some big badass Jedi. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, if this guy lived through all of this, he must
he's
be
a
pretty
trainer?
cool. Yeah.
Like a CrossFit trainer? Almost.
I just imagined a big buff green body with Yoda's like tiny head on it.
Yeah.
Train you, I will.
Yeah, and I love like even little shots like that of Luke getting mad and throwing down his gloves. It supports what Yoda and Obi-Wan are going to tell us about Luke, that he is impatient.
Yeah.
And has a little bit of anger in him. I've always just, obviously, you know, loving this film forever, just thought, like, Hoth and Dagobah are cool, and also, like, oh, hey, Hoth, it's a nice planet, and then Jungle Planet, cool. But watching it more critically, like, there are good reasons to have those be the environments in a movie that's kind of about, like, feeling uncomfortable, feeling unsure. Like, clearly, Dagobah is very, like, nightmare and dreamlike if you don't know what's going on. It's very murky.
Desolation, isolation.
Like
Yeah.
a swamp planet. I remember in one of the books them mentioning how, like, all the different, like, dark type of life that lived on the planet
Yeah.
helped cover up Yoda.
Helped cover Yoda's presence. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that's in the novelization.
Yeah.
And that's certainly, it was, you know, before the internet, that was certainly something that kids told each other on the playground. Like,
Yeah, and then
yeah.
a dark Jedi had died in the
Yeah.
cave that Luke goes to you
Yeah.
know, to find himself or whatever.
And it's not on the nose like that, but there's some stuff that kind of deals with that in very later Clone Wars episodes
Yeah.
of Yoda visiting Dagobah. That's pretty awesome.
I would like to. I wish I could have. If there's a credit from these films that I would love, it's. Oh yeah, I was an R2D2 tosser. Yeah, in Dagobah where he gets thrown from the monster. Yeah, that was me. I got to do that.
I launched R2. Yeah.
Just like 4 dudes throwing an empty shell.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Right.
Yeah, so it's pretty explicit thematics, but then in just a moment here, we get there is even darkness within R2.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah. But I love how much Empire just finds little moments of strange fantasy space adventure in every corner, because Luke in R2 could have just landed and been creeped out.
Yeah.
But just to keep it exciting and pulpy, R2 is briefly in danger.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah. And I've read recently that some of the motivation for showing the back of Vader's head is to clarify that he was not a droid.
Yeah.
From the creators. But I think it's one of the many things that makes the classic trilogy just have like a really good feel of like slowly revealing exposition, where we don't see anything in the first film. We see just his scarred head, so we get a little sense of it. And then in the third film, we see his whole face. You know, it's just...
At this point, too, he could still be an alien, you know?
Right.
There's really... It still leaves it very open.
To interpretation, yeah.
They're not necessarily bruises. It just could be markings of
Yeah.
another world.
I wouldn't want to be that alien that just naturally looks horribly scarred and burnt. Coming up, one of the most sexually suggestive lines in all of Star Wars.
Hey.
I haven't got time for anything else. It took
Yeah.
me until I was an adult. It's like, wow, he's really saying there are some other bases I could round.
Yeah.
Like, and it's delivered well. And he's got that smile.
I do love practical stuff like this. Like, he has to carry all of his crap.
Yeah, and he's set up a little plank so he doesn't have to walk through it again. Yeah, and he looks like he's going to set up fort and stay a while. So, Mark, when you first saw this, since you knew a lot going in, did you know that Yoda was the Jedi Master?
No, I do remember. I was kind of surprised by it almost. Since I didn't watch Empire as much as I watched the others, or at the very beginning anyway. I do remember being surprised that he was the great Jedi.
Okay, so the sort of trick of the film still worked for you when you saw it as a kid.
And the Muppet stuff just totally got me too.
Yeah. I'm becoming more and more fascinated by what people eat in Star Wars, and I love his just kind of gross-looking rations.
His taquitos.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
taquitos and his cheese loaf. It's also fun to think about, like, obviously A New Hope was a huge, huge hit, but the fact that they successfully introduced so many new characters and new ideas to it, I think Empire Strikes Back is what made it become like, well, it's never going to go away now.
Yeah.
That it's, these two movies are so good
Yeah.
that the franchise is going to have, it would take something truly, truly, truly awful, and many people think the prequels are awful, but still, here we are. And I think a lot of that is because things as inventive and different and weird as Yoda get introduced.
Yeah. It says so much for practical effects to have him there on set.
Yeah, Yoda's...
sharing the same light and environment as the main character,
Yeah, his mocking tone, his little Yoda butt, and laugh like, yeah, I loved Yoda as a little kid because, he seemed like a little kid to me of like kind of pokey and mocking and but then also secretly very wise and smarter than everybody knew. Okay, so knowing what we know of Yoda, how much of this is an act and how much has he gotten a little crotchety and willing to hit robots with sticks?
He would have dismantled him with the Force if he didn't like it.
I think he's just. How often does he get visitors?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and he's just really having some fun with Luke. I mean,
he knows R2. That's, you know.
Oh, true. I mean, you can see the whole thing is he's just playing Luke. He wants to see how Luke is going to behave if he doesn't reveal himself, and he's pretending to be pesky and annoying. You can interpret it as just that, but I like to think a lot of this is Yoda's character at this point, as he
Taking
goofs
the
around a
prequels
lot.
Into account, he also knows that R2 has a flamethrower, so it's like,
Trying to push him to that.
yeah,
It's like, let's see what you still got, robot.
Yeah, and Yoda is very dire in a lot of the prequels, but certainly in the Clone Wars and a little bit in Attack of Clones, we see a little bit of the mirth, and sense of humor, and I like that, seeing that part of Yoda.
it's that, training someone, you would have to have some fun on the training end of it, or it would be horrible just treating someone terribly all the time.
Right, and pretty soon here he's going to tell Luke that a Jedi must have the most serious mind, but at the same time it seems like if you are going to focus all of your energy on always being on the light side, you have to enjoy life a little bit. You have to enjoy the light side a little bit, right? More good, solid dad humor from Han Solo. So this upcoming romance scene, what do you guys think makes it work so well?
I mean, how it's shot, the lighting, and the little
dialogue,
dialogue.
too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is just that it is very human and relatable. Like that joke where she asks to not be called something sarcastic, and then he just makes calling her own name kind of sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could have been a big swing hard joke, and it's just so casual and real in the delivery of it. Yeah, I think also it works because of all of the bad things that our characters have been going through, and you've already seen the bond between them, and they have this moment of calm, and you want them to find more comfort in one another.
Yeah.
You know?
It's made so much better by C-3PO interrupting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. The classic 3PO interruption.
And
But
having,
then, yeah.
having
And
no
Leia's
idea
just like,
that he
"Bail."
did too.
And then on top of it all, that great look from Han right at the end that he
I
looks
love that.
legitimately sad.
I love the
Han's look where
asteroid
the dude's
hitting
like, "Ah."
and,
Yeah,
and
so that-
him disappearing.
Is a nice touch. But yeah, but just to go back to the romance scene for just a second, I love that it ends with Han looking after her, not in a, man, we were going to hook up, is not the look on his face.
Right.
The look is, we had a real moment, and I wanted that real moment. And that makes
Yeah.
it like such a nice romance moment, and not like a creepy hookup moment.
Not just a space pirate thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes it clear that he is the he calls himself a scoundrel, but he's a scoundrel with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
And this is another one of the changes from the special editions that I like.
Yeah, so this is the specialist edition. This one wasn't added until like 2004
Yeah.
or 2006, I think,
Where he
actually.
doesn't have the monkey eyes.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is entirely changed to reflect the rule of two more accurately. So yeah, it makes it clear that they're playing each other, that they've both found out that the pilot who destroyed the Death Star is Skywalker, but they haven't discussed
other.
it yet or told each other. And Ian McDiarmid is playing it relatively casually. So yeah, with the weight of the prequel, that's a huge thing that Vader is suggesting of like, we've won, so why don't we just get rid of the rule of two? So I really like that change because it's a huge thing for Vader to say, we don't need to kill one another as master and apprentice. What if we just get another dark agent? That'll be great.
Let's go with 3.
Yeah, we'll
Roll
make
a
him
3.
Inquisitor.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of snakes, so I always thought it was very impressive that Mark Hamill was just like, sure, get out of the way, snake. I'm not scared of you. Even though there's a good outtake where a snake bites him that you can find on the internet. So what do you think the soup's like? What's in the soup, boys?
I used to know what it was called. I played used to play Trivial Pursuit, Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, and it was like, what's the name of the soup? And no, everybody was like, we don't know, but someone's like Twigleaf or something. something. It's got to be just like plants, I figure.
Nice plant soup.
Yeah.
Really
Vegetable
awful
soup.
plants, though.
Yeah. Yoda seems like just I gotta get the stuff that's the most nutritious, taste or no taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, with being so character-based, the fact that Mark Hamill is alone with a Muppet and a voiceover, and that huge shift from mirthful Yoda to deadly serious, kind of scary Yoda, and all of that just works, is amazing. I've always loved that moment because it is just so delightfully on the nose of showing him patience. So, Mike, when you were first sort of absorbing this as a young person, maybe not your first viewing because you're probably getting sleepy by now, but were you excited at Yoda's interpretation of the Force? Or were you I want it to be an adventurous thing? But Yoda just so brings it down of, like, it's not about fun. It's about being serious.
That sounded very realistic to me.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't all about, like, going on adventures and stuff like that. At the same time, it wasn't negating that either. It was, that's going to come on its own.
Right.
But this higher awareness will just make you better at all of that,
Yeah. I think I am just naturally a little prone to guilt. But it made me feel guilty because I was so into Star Wars for, like, the excitement and the lasers and the explosions.
And it was the movie distinctly telling you that's wrong.
Yes. And it was saying, like, yes, in the world of the movie, you shouldn't be so excited to see things blow up.
It was really intimidating to hear him talk about fear and being afraid. And it's like, you will be.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most powerful line deliveries in this whole film is, you will be, you will be.
Yeah.
Again, supporting kind of just the darkness and the sort of the doubt, like, Luke doesn't know what that means, but we as an audience totally believe Yoda because he is so super scary in that shot.
And again, loved seeing the TIE bombers.
Yeah. It's cool that we saw them in the earlier establishing shot, but now that now we get to actually see, like, a function. Yeah.
Ugh.
It's the right response to that.
Yeah. But I love that there is
more shudder.
Some nice workmen in Britain who are making the Minoc, and is like, let's make it a bit more milky. Maybe a little more milky in its mouth. That would be creepier, right?
Great coward line.
Yeah. Back in the day, Kenner did a send away to get the masks that you could put on your figures.
Really? Just the masks?
Just they came. It was like an action pack, and it came with, like, a couple of other, like, cool blasters that you didn't have. I can't remember what else, but the masks were the main things. And we collected, we cut out the things, we sent them out, and we got a letter back from Kenner saying, we did not expect the demand. Sorry, kid.
Kidding?
And it wasn't even like, we'll get back to you later. It was
no,
just
it's
like,
nope.
That would not fly in internet age.
No, it's like, I messaged Kenner and they did not.
No, wait, was this life-size masks? Like, for the
No,
kid
it's for the
to wear,
figures.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
They have released them with those since.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and I have many, many versions of them. But it's just like
that would suck.
It's interesting to think about, like, how much Star Wars has changed the world in terms of marketing. Like, the marketing machine hadn't quite caught up to Star Wars 3 years later.
Right.
Where, like, they didn't even really make a proper Cloud City Bespin playset. It was just this cheap little thing. In comparing that to where we are now, where, like, it is hard to find something that doesn't have Star Wars on it when you go to Walmart.
Yeah.
And just how much Star Wars has changed the world.
And where now we have, like, scale, like, human life-size scale prop replicas that you can buy of a lot of this stuff,
Or just in general, registering at Bed Bath & Beyond and getting the Darth Vader toaster.
Yeah.
And that not
Right.
being a weird thing.
Yeah, sleeping inside a Tauntaun because of that one scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that.
Actors also did a great job shaking back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
This is really, really good.
It's no Star Trek level, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, so this is yet another thing that just sort of literalizes the theme of being trapped inside something, not knowing what you're involved in, literally not knowing what you're in.
Just I remember being freaked out. It's like, it's a cave with teeth. Doesn't make sense. Oh.
And I believe, still to this day in canon, Space Slug.
Space.
No other name. Amazing.
They actually sell those at Disneyland now.
They do.
Oh,
And
they're
they've-
hand puppets, right?
Yeah. And I know they're oven mitts
Here we
too.
go. Oh, yeah. Oh, I need one of those.
Parkour.
Yeah, and I think I've read somewhere that this span where the Falcon is on the run and Luke is in Dagobah is supposed to be around 2 weeks, which I've always
Huh.
wondered. That works for me. I would need to look up exactly where that info comes from and confirm it. But just for the sake of fun conjecture, I think about 2 weeks is right.
2-week Jedi fantasy camp.
Yeah, because somebody pointed out to me, like, Luke was only there for like 2 days. It's like, how long could the Falcon have been flying in space? It's like, hey, yeah.
Without
Regardless.
refueling. Oh, well, and I also don't know how long it was in the cave.
Yeah.
Or the space slug, excuse me.
In the space slug. Yeah. But I do like, regardless of anything, if it's 2 days or 2 weeks, that this is a demonstration of how powerful Luke is, that once he really opens himself up to the Force, he can do things really, really quickly and really well, and he's just a more powerful Jedi than a lot of the ones we saw in the prequels.
Yeah.
Yeah. This must have really bummed Yoda out, though, that he gets him for 2 weeks after a really long wait.
Yeah, and I think it ends up having, what happens on Dagobah ends up having like a good rhythm with Attack of the Clones, where both Luke and Anakin are having visions, and they both make the choice to run off after the people they love, with different levels of consequences. So do you interpret that Yoda kind of guided all Luke's CrossFit training to this cave?
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Okay, or that Luke was drawn there? You think Yoda directed him there?
Yoda directed him there.
Mike, I haven't known you for very long, but that's the most authority you've ever used in a sentence. Like, you are for sure on that.
Yeah,
Yoda
just
did it.
100%.
Okay.
That the whole ruse, oh, we're done training for today.
Yeah. And I love the thing where Yoda just said, your weapons, you won't need them, and he looked at him with such doubt. And that's one of those things that, like, another thing that I think about in day-to-day life, that obviously this is a space movie, and these are weapons, and he's a warrior, but I feel that way sometimes when I'm kind of deciding what energy to bring into a room of, like, do I need to put my armor on? Do I need my weapons? Or should I be good like Luke and just, like, let my defenses down and let things flow?
And
but I
you
think
wonder, like, would Vader have drawn on him?
No. Yeah, Luke instigates.
Had he not brought his weapons.
Yeah,
you know?
he totally brings his desire to see everything as a fight. It's 3 years since A New Hope, and he's been in lots of battles, lots of wars, so
More snakes.
Yeah.
fair enough, but he's trying to learn a different perspective.
Right.
But he totally brings the weapons, he brings the violence.
Komodo dragon.
Also of the dark side.
Yes.
Dark side Komodo dragon.
Komodo Darthan.
Well-known agent of evil.
Yes.
Yeah, I love how this is shot too, where it's just a little different. It's not like super dream time,
Yeah.
but just a little
Little
slowed down,
surreal.
choppy. Yeah, surreal is perfect.
And as an audience member, I was not ready for that to happen.
No, this is one of the scariest moments in the whole series.
Yeah. Yeah, and he brings his Luke brings his weapon up first. And I love how slow it is, so you can really clearly see the blows. And a real aggressive move from Luke, going for the head.
And it's weird because you'd wanted this fight since the last movie.
Right. And
But
now
at the
you're,
same time, I was so blown back by it.
yeah, you're getting in a strange dream. Okay, so when you guys were young kids, how did you interpret Luke seeing his own face in Vader's mask?
I'm trying to put into words what it was, but
Yeah.
there was a lot to process with that.
Yeah.
And with Yoda just being so calm about it afterwards, I
And
found it
kinda-
even more unsettling.
Yeah, shaking his head.
Unsettling.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But you didn't have any
piggyback
sort of like
that.
interpretation of what it meant. It was just like that's
well,
creepy.
I thought, to me, it was very clear that it was like, you're in danger of becoming like this guy.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You know?
Yeah.
Look at there's my boy up there.
All right. This is hands down one of it's such a short scene and expanded
feet.
Star Wars so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bosk for LOM. The much abused Dengar, who barely is even in the shot. Zuckuss.
And Forlom.
Yeah.
And
For love or money.
my boy.
IG-88,
That's
Mark's
my
favorite,
boy.
in his no disintegrations.
Mine and a lot of other people's favorites.
Yeah, Dengar's barely in it.
Yeah.
He was just in that first shot.
Yeah, but boy, I mean, the power of just that idea of bounty hunters. Like Greedo's kind of a bounty hunter, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
To know that there's these collection of like incredibly alien, incredibly scary looking.
Yeah, if you
things.
left it up to Greedo, bounty hunters sucked.
Yeah.
They were just
And
terrible.
because
you know?
they were alien and weird, all their action figures looked totally cool.
Yeah.
There wasn't this sort of like they look a little stiff and weird like humans.
I remember playing like scenarios with the other bounty hunters and what they were doing to try and capture Solo.
Yeah.
And how like they would cross paths and blow each other away and stuff.
Like
Yes.
a wacky races sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Where Han Solo was the end result.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get more of that stuff that's canon. There's certainly tons of stuff, Legends versions of that stuff.
Someone asked me on the internet if like I felt like Boba Fett was overblown or if he was cool. When you think about it, if Boba Fett was a movie, the goal was Han Solo, and he accomplished his goal. He
Yeah.
was like in his victory lap when he died. you
Yeah.
know?
And the no disintegrations underlines how cool. I mean, he looks cool. He sounds cool. The no disintegrations.
He
The
talks
fact.
to Vader with a familiar tone.
Yeah, and the fact
You
that
know?
Vader has to be like, don't be too evil.
Yeah.
You know?
Use that blue circle stun blast that we like so much.
yeah.
Yeah. When Vader's your voice of reason,
Yeah.
you're a
You're
badass.
a bad dude.
Yeah. And everyone up there looks so scary. And to say, like, he's the scariest.
Yeah.
I also like in the context of a lot of the Vader stuff we're getting in new canon to show that he's really doing whatever the hell he wants in the Empire at this point.
Yeah.
Like, he's choking people. The rest of the Imperials are like, we don't need bounty hunters. Like, screw you, I'm bringing in bounty hunters.
He's Elvis in the 70s, basically. He's just whatever he wants to do.
But more evil.
Yeah.
More evil. I don't
Slightly
think
more
Elvis is,
evil.
yeah.
Only he actually is a master of his martial art. He
Yeah.
didn't just declare himself one.
R2's been around Force users for a long time. He has to know how unhelpful he's being, screaming while Luke is trying to learn how to do this stuff.
And I can't help but every time love the shot of Yoda falling.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so great. Concentrate. Yeah.
And it's turned into quite the reaction gif.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that for most of Empire Strikes Back, for Luke's journey, we watch him fail again and again and again. It's only really in the space between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi where we get, like, he's learned from all of those failures we get to see on screen.
Yeah.
But having him go through those.
It's a very fun journey, though, to watch.
Yeah.
You know?
And it is fun to see him growing more powerful technically in the Force and more able to do things, because we've only seen so much Force use in A New Hope anyway. But, you know, I like that there isn't a moment where everything clicks and he's starting to get it. Like, he learns abilities, but on an emotional level,
Yeah.
what he's being told to unlearn what he has learned and to see things not as adventures, that doesn't really click with him. There's not a big learning moment where it clicks with him in the film. Oh man, I mean that's a great
Yeah, the
that
puppetry
reaction of
work
just like
through this whole
I'm
scene.
not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking the exact same thing. That is totally what that is.
It's like, Dad.
It's amazing on every level. It's amazing emotionally that it's so on point. It's amazing that technically the eyelids could move like that to communicate that doubt.
And even the fact that they weren't 100% like in sync
Yeah.
made it that much more real too. It didn't feel like all right, this is action number 3. Because
Yeah.
for older folks, sometimes
Yeah, one of his eyes moves a little bit slower.
it's a little bit
than the
lazier.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in the tremble of the ears that Lucas has talked about a lot, how on CGI Yoda they make his ears tremble so he matches. I think the elegance of this explanation of the Force, like Obi-Wan does a quick version of it in A New Hope, but the elegance of it and the idea of the luminous beings, I think people got so attached to this vision of the Force that that's what made them unreasonably angry about midi-chlorians.
Yeah, I think it's such a sharp contrast to that. Midi-chlorians is basically the science, whereas this is the philosophy.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about
something that mystical people don't really like dealing with the science of.
Yeah, and we've talked about as fans, like there's fun things to play with the midi-chlorians, and you can just ignore them if you want. They're absolutely canon, obviously, but it feels so much like The Force Awakens being called The Force Awakens is going to be so much about like that idea of the Force is an entity that.
And I feel
like
I've kind of forgiven the midichlorian thing since, just because it's a metric. You needed something to measure that. Oh, his power with the Force is off the charts.
Yeah.
Compared to
you need charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Yoda, on the other hand, shows rather than tells.
Yeah.
He's off the charts.
And I love the philosophy of do or do not. There is no try. Like, you have to believe that you are able to do something in order to be able to do it. But at the same time, he's still trying here.
Yeah.
He's calmly doing it. It's not like he's just like snapping his little Muppet hand and it pops.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's closing his eyes. He's concentrating. So I guess he's not saying it's going to be easy, but
some of that might be show though, just so that the kid doesn't feel so bad.
But it does suggest that there is still a scale to the Force.
Yeah.
That you would like if he believed he could move a planet, he probably could, but he would still have to really put his little Yoda back into it.
Yeah.
Might get a nosebleed off of that or
yeah.
something.
Again, so much judgment.
Yeah. That's the job. Judging kids, making them feel stupid.
That is the true power of a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
It's a great, harsh Yoda burn. But in the context of what we learned from watching the prequels, it's fun for me to think of, like, Yoda thinks that they made some bad decisions in the Jedi Order, and that's part of the reason it fell.
Yeah.
And now he's going to let the Force guide him. If the Force tells him to train Luke, if Luke comes to him, so be it. He'll give it a try. So it's just, with the theme being doubt, Yoda is in doubt. Yoda is in doubt about whether this is a good idea. Like, is he just going to turn to evil? Are we just creating another agent of evil that somebody else is eventually going to have to take out?
Yeah,
or
Yoda's
is he a savior?
Been down this road before.
Yeah, it's like, is this worth it? And I think it adds that great sense of doubt because Yoda, he's not just a disappointed teacher. He's a guy who's truly uncertain. Should I be doing this?
I mean, he saw that security hologram too.
Yeah. You got it.
It's like you can't quit your job now. Now that you've been promoted to the worst job in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
he's there goes that shore leave too.
Yeah, I mean, he's moving up through the ranks fast.
I love that the executor class down there is basically the island of Manhattan.
Yeah,
that's what Vader drives around. He just,
Yeah, and you wonder how, like, does the Empire even really need a ship that big, or is it mostly show?
Oh, it's a show.
Yeah.
Strong pimp game.
Yeah. I would like somebody to make a supercut, if they haven't already, of all of the both subtle and direct ways that 3PO is told or made to shut up.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of it. I hope there's a good 3PO shut up in The Force Awakens. Yeah, and as we're getting into the back half of the film, Mark, you always have great insights on the lighting. I like how much of the lighting it's mostly dark and there's one little thing illuminating.
Yeah.
And that starts to happen so much. And that aesthetic really is one of the things that really stuck with me from this film. If I would wonder, like, why do I really like things when they're really, really dark, but there's one kind of bright color? And
the noir really just pokes through.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Very much so.
And it's just the fact that it keeps getting darker and darker and darker just brings that looming fear, really.
Yeah.
Something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, but that little bit of hope in the light.
There's always a light.
And yeah, just more Han Solo being awesome. Yeah, like when you first see this, you think that's so cool. Leia validates it with that line.
And that kiss.
In that kiss, yep. And then the tragedy of so cool, so smart, but not quite good enough. So by Boba Fett figuring this out, it also supports the theme that is also in the prequels, that rigidity of any sort of structure will bring downfall. The Jedi are too rigid.
Yeah.
The Republic is too rigid. They fall apart. And the Empire is very rigid. They know exactly when to shoot their garbage out.
Yeah.
If they hadn't had somebody like Boba Fett who's thinking differently, that would have worked, and Han would have escaped.
I wish Boba Fett had been part of the Think Differently campaign.
He doesn't look calm.
He's trying. Yeah, so Yoda opens this one up to himself to tell him to basically start reaching out for visions while he's standing on Luke. One of my favorite absurd Star Wars action figures I've seen recently is, I saw this at a convention. It's an older action figure. They had the Jedi training Luke where he is upside down and his hair is upside down and he's doing the lift. But it just looks like keg stand Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to wonder with the prequels, how much is Yoda leading him to, like, I'm going to tell you about visions. I'm going to try to get you to open your mind to visions to see how you react, if you react any better than your father did.
I think there's that,
Right.
and also to help him interpret a little bit more.
Oh, right, to convince him that it's not always for sure going to play out that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These aren't the visions that will be, the visions that may be.
Right. That line stuck in my head as a kid. You destroy all for which they fought and suffered. It took me, getting a decent bit older to understand that, from Yoda's
Yeah.
perspective, the whole point of the rebellion is to just foster the Jedi who will take down Darth Vader and the Emperor. In that,
Yeah.
if Luke is going to, that's what they're fighting for, is for Luke to be able to become a Jedi.
Yeah.
From Yoda's perspective.
Well, and what I thought he meant was very literal, was like, his friends right here in this cockpit will all suffer, and he's right, that they all do pretty harshly,
Well, yeah, and Luke says, like, in sacrifice Han and Leia, it's like, well, if you value what they fight for. That's not, I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but yeah, it's a pretty harsh view there from Yoda, continuing his general view of attachment is not important.
And it's like Yoda's been there firsthand. All of his friends died.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, he brought the troops to the battle. Like,
Yeah.
he started everything and began the downfall of everything.
Yeah.
So, a lot more weight to that now.
Yeah. As far as special edition things go, I think Empire has a lot of good stuff. I think it's fun to see a more elaborate approach to Cloud
this
City.
Was tinkered with the least and with the most reverence, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll see the shots where the wall has been taken out and then more of Bespin has been filled in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of those themes of doubt and not knowing who people are, they absolutely get echoed here more, where they don't know whether to trust Lando. Lando, in fact, pretends just like Yoda to be somebody other than he is at first.
Yeah. But it's very much the scorpion and the frog here, too, because, Han knows him.
Yeah.
He already knows what he's like, kinda.
Yeah, and I love that continuing theme with Han, where he says one thing with bravado, and then he says this truer thing to himself or Chewbacca.
Right.
Lobot. Already looking sad.
And I think Lobot's why I like wearing headphones like around the back of my head.
Yeah, Lobot is the reason that people wear sunglasses like that on the back of their heads. Absolutely. And I've always interpreted that moment of maybe Lando is going to try to just arrest him there and then can't bring himself to do it. How do you interpret that moment of why Lando approaches him with the fake
I'm to see
angry.
how Han approaches him.
I think that was more, yeah. It was like if he came out of guns blazing, he was ready for it, you know?
Or he had a same moment with Lobot that Han had with Chewie. Like before the door opened, it was just like, all right, we're just going to go see what they're up.
Lobot, keep your cell phones active, just in case. Lobot is a really distracting extra in these shots where in the background his head's just blinking away. Look at me, look at me. I don't care. Yeah, and this film just, the introduction of Lando just really fully created this whole kind of not Jedi subplot of scoundrels and bounty hunters, and like there's a whole part of the galaxy that works like Han does.
There's a whole underworld.
Yeah. Cloud City makes me think of nonprofits struggling as well. Totally a swear word, right? Eat Chuda?
I'm
That's
pretty sure
absolutely swearing.
Eat.
That's eat my.
Eat Chuta is not that far from.
Yeah.
You know.
So were you guys upset when 3PO got blasted? As kids, did you feel like, oh my God, C-3PO's dead?
I didn't think it was
I didn't
dead.
feel it was death. Yeah, I was the same way. I was like, oh, that's gonna take some work.
It's like what
to fix, you know.
Especially just what was he scared of? Like that was just like
right.
And especially
since we don't get to see it. Yeah.
Watching this from an adult's perspective and a comedic perspective, he keeps giving people the odds and the stakes and everything, and then he just gets told to shut up, and then he just gets shut off.
Yeah.
So he's just been
He's escalating.
He's been abused consistently. But I do love "Please Don't Get Up."
Yeah. Please don't get up.
Very, very funny.
It's a dangerous time.
And I feel like this whole conversation is really fleshed out by the prequels, where we've got to see like, oh, you mean well, you care about your friends, but you're opening yourself up to all of this anger.
Yeah.
And that you're willing to do anything to protect your friends.
And now you have so much power that's a very dangerous combination.
Yeah.
You know?
And Luke is so cocky and confident. Alec Guinness is so powerful just in quick reaction shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that line. So how do you guys interpret that line of "I cannot interfere"? Do you feel like there are some things like Han finding Luke on Hoth that Obi-Wan can interfere on?
Yeah.
I felt it was more of, like, with the dark side present, I cannot appear with my full power or help you in any sort of way. Much like how in the first film, it was just his voice when Vader was flying in.
Yeah.
But if it's a direct confrontation, I can't concentrate enough in the Force to be there with you.
Yeah, interesting.
And
yeah,
it
so
might be a type of rule of balance. You know,
Yeah.
the Force is clearly very big on balance.
Yeah. This shot here is just so amazing
Yeah.
with the different lights of the X-Wing. And again, that sort of, just that level of artistry where, like, you don't need to do that. It doesn't tell the story.
Yeah.
It just enriches the film so much.
And speaking of enriching, there is another.
Yeah.
How is that?
The red lighting right there as
Yeah.
it says that line.
Yeah, there's another, for 3 years, we did my brother and I debated who the other is.
And even that with the red lighting that may...
That suggests that, possibly if he turns dark, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a blue light, then a red
blue-
light. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mike, did you obsess on who the other was?
I was pretty sure it was Chewbacca.
Did you really?
No.
It's like, please say yes.
Yeah, we thought Chewbacca might be like the surprise, like the twist. Like
Yeah.
you would never expect
They
Chewbacca.
start speaking English and...
Whips out 2 lightsabers.
Yeah.
like the sides of his bowcaster are 2 like specialty lightsabers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love
There's
the
still a
intimacy
chance.
in this scene that again makes it clearly a romance in a very like classic 30s and 40s sort of film way that they truly care about each other.
And I liked
Yeah.
her hair loopies.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about the other,
IG-88.
I kind of, because it seemed like too big of a tip of the hat with Han using a lightsaber,
Yeah.
I just never believed that.
I never wanted it to be Han.
Yeah.
Because this film, like we were just talking about, introduced him as this, he's got this other role. He's a part of this other world. Let him be that.
I just kind of assumed it was a character we hadn't met yet.
Mm.
And also back to the destruction. I don't think that that's actually IG-88.
Yeah.
Seeing how many similar models of that type of droid there have been.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely for this time, it could be like he tried and failed, and it could be an implication that the bounty hunters are already here by
Yeah.
seeing that same model droid in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at the time the filmmakers probably just reused him, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, they
that-
reused his head from the cantina.
Yeah.
Well, that one was painted white, right?
Yeah, that one was
So,
white.
yeah.
Could have been ashen.
Maybe IG-88 went undercover in Cloud City.
Yes, IG-77. Perfect. Yes, no one will
His
suspect a
crazy
thing.
version of undercover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just paint me white. They'll think I'm a stormtrooper.
So like the whole film is almost in that interaction where he says, "Having a problem with your droid? No problem." So we get comedy, and then we get that sense of distrust, and then that ominous chord. Then we pan down to someone we love destroyed. It's like that's everything that's going on in this
Very
movie.
much
And
having
also-
a problem with his droid.
The guys that were just like about to throw him into the furnace, just like work's done. Like with the Ugnaughts
Yeah.
walking
Now
forward,
wait,
just like
that
whatever.
was 3PO back there,
No, that was just another protocol.
but he
droid.
had the same leg.
well.
You're like, well, that doesn't count.
3PO
That's my-
made a little
that's-
bit of extra money as an extra.
That's my easy out.
Yeah.
What about this? Well,
Yeah, and this was so devastating that Han was so cold and he can't do anything against Vader.
and
Yeah.
it also made the blaster much more realistic because you see in movies whenever people would fire guns, they would blink a lot because of the flash or the sound
Yeah.
or whatever. And when he was firing, he was blinking a lot. So like, oh, it's a real blaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys think that Vader should have used his lightsaber to deflect those, or is it just cooler that he's like, at this point I don't even need to, I use my hand?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, 'cause
he's
that-
no threat.
That's Yoda level power.
Yeah.
Like when Yoda absorbed like the shocks from the Emperor.
Yeah,
you
that
know?
so you think it's not even deflecting,
Yeah,
he's just
he
like
is
sucking them in.
Fine.
Yeah.
Like a sieve.
I
Your weapon isn't even close to the level that it would take to hurt me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
do.
know?
I love the
So
elegance of
uncivilized.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut it off. Thank you, God.
I
Phase
also-
1 complete.
yeah. I also love that that trap happens at a dinner. So
Yeah.
now let's sit down and chat.
Well, that's the thing.
Just like Thanksgiving.
Robot Chicken did a wonderful sketch of
Yeah.
like it showed that scene, and then they went to the dinner where everybody was just kind of quietly eating. Can I have some more water? Very Shakespearean moment with Chewbacca and
yeah.
3PO.
It took a long time for Kenner to put out 3PO action figures that had the removable limbs. And my brother was very frustrated, so he broke apart his C-3PO so he could play these scenes. I
And how
thought it was a
far
little
we-
barbaric at the time, but I
definitely.
appreciate.
How far it's come is now there's one that's broken apart like that, but when you press down on his head, his eyes light up.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a fan of the new C-3PO backpack that they
Yeah.
made that's like
Yeah.
this that I wish could speak.
The oh no, I've been shot. And here we're reaching your sleepy times.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, this was around when I tapped out.
you want me to get
first
you some
time.
coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is definitely like
It would not take much waterboarding for me to talk. Is basically what I learned at that early age.
Yeah, and how much Vader is just leering in and watching and just enjoying pain is like a great dark side thing.
I do remember thinking just sparks and black cats popping off in your face. Not that big of a torture, but
his screams are so good. This whole back and forth that happens a couple times between Lando and Vader, I think, is the way people feel about dealing with any corporation. Like, whenever you sign the iTunes user agreement, you feel like you're in that negotiation of like, it doesn't matter. I'm Lando and they're Vader. There's nothing I can do. But yeah, we were talking recently on the show about the PG-13 rating of The Force Awakens. And thinking back to 80, they obviously didn't have PG-13. But that I feel like that torture scene shows how kind of awful you can be and still downplay it. Like, Han's screams are awful. He's being tortured for no reason. It's a pretty awful thing to do to your hero, but it's played quietly enough that it's not super upsetting if you don't dwell on it.
And also his pallor walking in here is a lot more ghostly.
And his Blu-ray pallor is extra worse. Like the detail
and
here.
it was done in a way too where kids could still watch it because they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on the full horror of the torture until I was much older. Yeah, I love that they never ask me questions because Vader's just like, you made me chase you, you jerk. You made a fool of me, and I'm going to just hurt you a little bit. I suppose another interpretation, too, is that Vader is hoping that Luke, like himself, can sense his friends in turmoil.
Yeah.
So he is torturing Han for that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Stung him deep.
You can tell Lando is cocky because his cape doesn't have any strings to keep it on his neck. He's just like, nope.
Yeah.
It'll stay on.
His shoulders
Trust me.
Shoulders are strong enough.
His figure was not done justice with the gray plastic cape.
Yeah.
No. The original one, and really an emphasis on his poofy collars on his sleeves. I don't think there is any better set ever made in movies than the Cloud City freezing chamber for me.
It's pretty great. Immediately ruined by the Star Wars Kinect video game where you played a dance game with Han Solo in this level.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Many great Star Wars video games. Others are really determined to ruin our memories of Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a great comic book illustrator, Alex Ross.
Oh,
yeah,
Ross.
yeah.
Who,
awesome.
He does a lot of nods to Star Wars. He did this very cool layout of the Batcave that had that similar dot dash dot pattern along the floor. And also Batman had like a broken back, and the neck brace he's wearing is similar to an unmasked Darth Vader.
Oh, neat.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah. And even the exposition is handled well by, like, we know 3PO prattles, so 3PO prattles and tells us a little bit about what this is. Because, again, imagining seeing this for the first time, of like, it's a super weird idea that he's going to freeze him in a made-up substance.
Jeez. Whoop.
Yeah, I like how Vader knows it's pointless.
And
I was always surprised at Vader when Boba Fett is like, he's worth a lot to me. That Vader didn't just go, or I could just kill you too.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's always in the back of his mind. The cuffs,
Yeah.
the restraints, that was a fun just close up to. That's all that Chewie needs, and he'll calm down. But also,
I know.
had to let it happen. They sell those at Disney, at
Okay.
Disneyland. It's the weirdest merchandise that I've ever seen from Star Wars. Is you can put your kids in restraints.
Bondage gear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It makes sense, but it's terrible. Harrison Ford's acting in this. Obviously, a lot of stories about the I Know being ad-libbed or at least brainstormed by him and Kershner.
Yeah.
But just the look of sorrow on his face. Just sorrow.
Yeah.
Because he's being taken out of the equation 100%. He can't help anyone anymore.
Yeah. In that line that he said to Chewie earlier, there'll be another time. Like, that's kind of like, that's a Luke line in a way. That's like, I have faith, I have hope that we'll live to fight another day.
Yeah.
That's a great growth moment for Han too. And just, I think it's super weighty in any context. But as the films first came out and you had to wait 3 years to have your hero say, like, don't worry, there'll be another time, Chewie. Like,
Now,
yeah.
there's an inconsistency here where
In the
he
claw?
went down wearing the restraints.
Restraints,
Oh, yeah.
yep.
And came up with his arms. I always fancied that he picked the lock.
At the very
and,
last
like,
minute.
He did some
like,
Houdini
tried
stuff.
to at least made an effort to escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that some pre-process burned them off, and he threw his hands up at the last minute. That slam is great. The close-up is great. Just all the way this story is visually told. Yeah, and going back to "I Love You, I Know," I feel like it's a good combination of all the things we've been saying about Han, where he says something with bravado and then he kind of says the true thing, and like that line is both bravado and true at the same time.
Yeah.
And I like that Vader is concerned enough about how powerful his son might be that he's like, no, let's freeze him.
Yeah.
Better to just freeze him. Yeah.
That way he doesn't have to go too far. He doesn't have to fight him too much or deal with his feelings.
Yeah.
Just get him out of the way. Just freeze him. I won't have to.
Yeah, and then Luke coming up here is going to make things hard for poor old Dad. Lobot.
I kind of like that moment that it's on. We're not.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're done.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, the deal has been altered too far. We're going to fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand by from new instructions, Lobot.
Yeah, and it does pay off with Lobot's been standing behind, looking creepy, staring at the back of
Download
Lando's
our
head.
Betray the Empire mixtape.
Yeah. Let's get our jam on. I love how the carbon frozen Han Solo just floats.
Yeah, I think that's an add-on. It's an add-on feature that they put, because there's the clear carbonite like pool, and then there's like the casing.
Yeah.
That has all of the life support signs
right,
on it.
like a phone casing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, and this also let us know specifically that Boba Fett was badass.
Yeah.
That he heard Luke sneaking up on him and was aware of being watched and all that. There's a shot coming up that a friend pointed out to me a while back. There's this, I love that. There's a great shot of Lando kind of peering, trying to see exactly who Luke is, as if to say, I want to see the guy that all this crap is about.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
made all this happen. That's worth all of this.
I like the Imperial.
That one right there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
is that the guy? That guy?
Him? I like the Imperial move of the guy just using Leia as a human shield.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
a jerk. Yeah. And at this point, after going through all the training with Luke, you want him to be like, you're almost a Jedi. Jump across there. Cut some people apart with your lightsaber. Come on.
But at the same time, it's the patience part.
Yeah. He's watching and looking. Yep. And the Bespin fatigues are so cool.
Yeah.
They are the coolest costume.
Just the costumes in general are always super
Yeah.
awesome.
And I
I
love
like
this.
that Vader knows that R2 is enough of a problem.
He's gotta,
Need
yeah.
to keep him out of there.
Yeah, he's going to flame me. He's going to grease me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this obviously this is just great visual storytelling too, where he just realizes the blaster has no point going forward.
Oh.
I think that's the James Earl Jones' best delivery in the entire trilogy of that whispered, "But you are not a Jedi yet."
And the yet just has that right amount of vitriol and sass to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because at this point, everything we know about Vader, he has to already be sort of wrestling with feelings of like, I have never been more in charge, I've never been more angry, but it's my son.
Yeah.
And how much is he going to be like me? And do I want him to be like me? Is he going to be more of a pain if he's like me? Or am I going to be more proud if he's like me?
And you see, speaking of pride, you see him just still only using one hand at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I've always loved this reserved fight as opposed to... I mean, I really like the fight in Jedi too, but there's so much context here.
Yeah, this fight
Subtext.
is... Yeah, the fight is so well done. Yeah, and it's fun to think, like, obviously, these films were made earlier, and Hamill has said that they were instructed to treat them a little bit more like broadswords, like they had weight and heft to them.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that gets changed in the prequels.
Like it turned into like katanas.
Yeah.
Super lightweight and can be swung.
So, but it's fun to think of, like, okay, well, for Vader then, since that is canon, he's just using it in a different style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think most people watching this first time really don't know whether to trust Lando.
Yeah.
In fact, don't know whether to trust him even till the end of the film, really.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Han. Got it.
Magnificent bastard.
Yeah, in his magnificent flying machine. Slave One, so cool in this shot that lets it really just sink in how awesome and weird Slave One is.
And it's the first type of ship that you've seen just flat on its back.
Yeah, that has
really
this
made
weird...
it stand out even more.
Yeah, it looks
yeah,
cool.
Everything he does is
weird.
just a little off center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like and it shows how bounty hunters are different. They're a completely different type.
Yeah.
Completely different style of person.
Yeah. And I love that they shoot at Slave One and try to make a difference, but nope. Yeah, just great performance by Carrie Fisher.
Much, everything.
Yeah.
Just like, help,
what is R2
help,
up to?
Just
right
help,
there?
please, just help, help. Oh God, oh
I like
God.
his dodging maneuver of circling a bit.
Serpentine.
I love that line. I think of that when I'm about to do something stupid. It's like, yeah, I'm full of surprise. Oh, dough. Gosh, darn it. I shouldn't have been so cocky.
Followed up with a straight up Homer Simpson dough.
Yeah. You'll find I'm full of dough.
And I liked Vader's
leap into the Batman move that he pulled there.
It wasn't just a jump. It was a forward lunge.
It was a very theatrical.
Yeah. You can imagine that he's using the Force to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Nailed it.
Yeah. And I like with the all too easy line, you get the narrative that he was testing Luke and thinking he would be easy to defeat, and now he realizes he's not.
That's often what I've said when I think I've done something great, but was actually stupid.
All too easy. Yeah.
Like with a little bit of regret at it.
Yeah.
All too easy.
And this is such a cool move from Luke.
Yeah. Ew, jeez.
I have breathing issues.
Yeah. I like just that sense that, oh, maybe Luke might be able to hold his own.
Yeah.
And now Vader's transitioned into a two-handed style.
Yeah, now Vader's putting his back into it a little bit, and I think this is not a manipulation. Luke legitimately drives him back.
Yep.
And knocks him off.
What up?
And he should have just kept going there,
Whoops.
Luke. I guess I don't want him to have killed Vader, because that would be a sad end to the movies, but...
You just have Luke there and face the black. The end.
Just throws the saber down. Like the
Or
end.
episode 6.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess it would not be the story of
We
Vader's
hear-
redemption. It would just be on to. It'd just be like the Kill Bill version of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Kill Sheev, I guess.
Weep, woo, weep, woo.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool that it moves. I think that Revenge of the Sith was trying to have rhythm with this, that it moves through the complex. It's not as successful as that, because I think it's trying to go too lava crazy. But
They bolted through the complex.
yeah, but I like kind of
So we have to-
literally falling deeper and deeper. Like this fight is literally falling lower and lower.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like that after Vader tests him, then Luke shows himself, pushes Vader off a thing, and then Vader's like, okay,
Nope.
I'm going to show you, son. And we've also seen a lot of Jedi use their hands to move things, so there's already something, even the second film in, something really badass about, I don't even need to gesture.
Nope.
Well, yeah, they've already shown him like having a monologue while choking someone else to death with his mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they-
also, do you think this is a different test that Vader's trying to not just like, let's see, like yeah, he's trying to power check him
yes.
to see how close he could be to being turned.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to make him angry, obviously, to
Definitely.
turn him. But I think he's also just at this point realizing, like, oh, maybe he does have skills, so I am just going to put him down.
Mhm.
Like, not kill him, but I'm going to make him stop fighting. Either
Yes.
he's going to get mad or he's going to stop fighting and stay down.
Yeah.
I've always thought this was cool, too, shooting out the little hand thing. It's a new shot for the special edition there.
If you happen to have an ice cream maker.
I really like the pattern on that door so much. I would want it as like a hardwood pattern.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's
for
really
paneling.
it's really elegant. A lot of the aesthetic is very elegant.
Elegantly retro.
Yeah, very Art Deco. This is what I was looking for.
Oh, that was an ice cream maker. That's great.
Yeah, Cloud City is very Art Deco.
They actually released that figure too.
Dude
And
with
he
an ice
came-
maker?
came with the ice cream maker.
Oh yeah,
People were that.
it made real ice
Excited
cream.
about
Yeah,
it.
ice cream is terrible.
Like that's like a UPC character. I figure
Yeah.
where you send like 20 in. Was like, no, we're
Yeah.
gonna put him out for sale. See how he does.
I always
Sold
I always
out
like
within an hour.
that Chewie never found his bowcaster and just has to be hunched up all weird over the tiny blaster when
Yeah.
it's tiny to him. Yeah, I like how much Leia's getting her own. She's taking stormtroopers down left and right.
Huh.
Nobody gave Lando a gun.
Nah, he's
I
good.
think he's got one. He's just not very good with it. He's no Leia.
Yeah.
There he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got one. Good for you, Lando.
But he looked so
Go away.
he looked so uncomfortable.
Even though Leia's going to be the wise old general, I hope she shoots some MOs, shoots some people down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to wonder if it's ever worked for anyone in the Star Wars universe to shoot just the broadside of a ship and it comes down, because they
Yeah.
certainly try.
I'd like to see that in Force Awakens, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the first
The
thing that you
exact
see the First Order do is they have a regiment of dudes all up at the same time, shoot a ship down with one bolt.
Yeah.
So that means their aim is good, and their
Right?
firing is impeccable, and they're a real threat.
Yes, and they have advanced in skill. Yeah.
As opposed to donk.
Yeah. It's such a great shot.
And the intensity of the lightsaber sound effect.
Yeah, the intensity, yeah, the movement, everything is increasing. The speed and the intensity and the harshness that Vader is fighting with. It's like he's taking the threat seriously.
It is hard to surprise people with that breathing apparatus.
Yeah. You need to scare him. Yeah, he knew he was scaring him with that shot, not taking him out. Very similar shot to Mace Windu on the Emperor in Revenge of the Sith there.
Yeah.
And again, he gets a shot in.
Oh, you.
You
And now
little-
now Vader's done.
Yeah.
How dare you sass
Happy now?
me. I told you lost.
He's never looked cooler than in this scene.
Vader.
Billowing
Yeah.
cape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this all has a lot more weight now with the prequels and the rule of two,
Absolutely.
and with his...
He's basically saying, let's take the Emperor together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so great. And great acting by James Earl Jones of like the tone really does change. He cuts his hand off, he stops him from fighting, and then he gets a little bit more sensitive
Yeah.
and breaks it down. That's impossible.
Rubber face Mark Hamill there.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's obviously a lot.
Oh, it's
There's no
huge.
way it's a casual choice, but I feel like, especially talking through with you guys about how much emotion has been built into this film,
Yeah.
that it's earned by the rest of the movie.
100%. That reaction, as silly as it may look, is 100% raw.
Yeah, it's
Like-
Yeah.
visceral. It's real.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we're seeing our hero beat up and bloody and desperate, and after everything they've been through.
And
Yeah.
what do you think Luke was thinking there? Because it's either I'd rather die than join you, or he knew that the gravity could have helped him escape.
Yeah, I think he's taking a chance. I think he's
Yeah, I think it's either way, it's better than this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a total like I'm just jumping, screw it. I
I'm
don't
out.
think it's I think it's like I think I
Now,
can
if
figure
you
out a
were-
way out of this, but if I don't, so be it.
If he
Like-
were screaming all the way down, it would be a
Would've been
different
thing.
story.
Luke out.
Well,
Ah!
that's been taken in and out of the special editions.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it's great that he doesn't scream because
Yeah.
it undermines
Gives more
his
control.
choice. It's one of those few times where Lucas, I think, listened to the criticism, is like, yeah, okay, you're right, I'll change it back. He shouldn't have screamed.
Now, the lightsaber that Finn has is that lightsaber.
That lightsaber.
It is that lightsaber. It's-
So
it is known
someone
as
went to the ground of Cloud City to,
Yeah.
to snatch that up at some point.
And that story was told in Timothy Zahn's first books, but it's really cool, going to be really cool to see it in canon on screen. Who went there? How did they get it? Why?
It's now known as the hero lightsaber.
Yeah, that's the way it's labeled on display at Disney, which is really, really cool. And a good sidestep of calling it either Anakin or Luke's.
Mhm.
It's just... I've always liked how quickly he switches from Ben to, wait, no, Leia.
Oh.
So yeah, this has a lot of rhythm with the
Just
shot
the little
before.
squinting, just the little like something. I hear
Yeah.
something.
I love how much Chewie shuts him down. Like, no, and it goes back to what we were talking
And
about. Of like,
instantly.
yeah, these characters are really bonded.
Mhm.
And so for Chewie to just be like, no, shut up.
He's been gone for weeks.
Yeah. And this scene is added in special editions. There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
Except the voiceover.
Well,
Yeah, voiceover is a little wonky. Yeah, and I like with the saying Leia, hear me, how clear it is that Luke is actually using the Force.
Yeah.
That he's not just kind of hoping, that he is calling out to her with the Force.
Well, it's reminiscent of the beginning of the movie where he's hanging upside down
Right.
and focusing.
Yeah, and saying like, what is the actual way I can use the Force to get myself out of this? Yeah.
I will say I am glad that they changed this from that puppet that you see there.
Yeah.
Where that was in the bulk of the shots originally.
Yes. This is much more convincing. Yeah, we keep finding out more cool things that the Falcon can do.
Yeah.
Now he's got to have hit the Falcon. I think there should have been a sound effect. There's no way that was a smooth shot.
The thump.
There should have been, I think, an upsetting little Ben Burt sound effect there. But don't you, when life has really beaten you up, don't you feel like Luke here, where it's just like, I give up. Just give me 5 minutes to cope with what's happened.
Yeah, whatever.
I can't. Yeah, this is the most I can't even.
Vader's my dad or whatever.
Yeah, yes. Everything Yoda and Obi-Wan said was right. I didn't end up saving my friends. I just risked my own life. Everything I thought was true was maybe a lie.
I always love that Lambda class.
Yeah, the shuttle's really cool. But it shows George Lucas's commitment to showing people in ships landing that he felt like that Empire Strikes Back needed this.
It's so important to see ships land.
It gives you a little bit more time to think, what's Vader thinking? How is he feeling?
Mm-hmm.
It does, though, say a lot about the characters, what vehicles they're in and what they choose to be in, you know.
Yeah.
How clean the Empire is versus how just rugged and kind of take what you can get.
Yeah, everything else, including
Rebels
Slave One is, yeah. They have so had it. Just such great reaction shots. Every tiny thing. Like look at Leia's reaction. Like, come on.
But then also seeing the similarities between Lando and Han.
Yeah.
Instantly just like, oh, okay, cool.
It's not my fault. It's not my
I really
fault.
can like this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And that he is similar to Han. And Piet has to be so happy every time he hasn't screwed up.
He's like,
oh, I did that right. Yeah, we didn't have the technology to show R2 doing as many things or as many things coming out of him, but he's certainly super competent.
Yeah.
And now, after they've made their connection, they can sense each other more.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I like how it's a quick fade and not a cut.
Yeah, it's a very quick fade, but you're right. Yeah, it's not a smash cut.
They didn't do like a split screen or anything.
Yeah, and I mean, the space between Empire and Jedi was really the question of, is Vader lying? But then looking back at Empire, Luke seems to believe him right away. He calls him father. He says, Ben, why didn't you tell me?
And now having the connection with him even more.
Yeah, maybe he feels it. Do you think Vader is talking out loud so like Piet can hear him, or is that or are those thoughts?
I have a feeling it's thoughts.
Okay.
I don't know. I think I kind of like the idea of the couple people in the trenches just looking up, going, "What the hell is he talking about?"
Yeah, nobody can question him. They can't say like,
It's
Lord
crazy
Vader,
old dude choking people from
you're-
across video transmissions, talking to himself.
Yeah, he'll just hire a bunch of bounty hunters to replace us all.
It's my son. I have to take this.
He like adjusts like a setting.
Yeah, and all of 3PO's kind of
I love
yelling.
the recurring theme of delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that pops up again in Return of the Jedi, literally, with the lines.
Someone's
Did
gonna
that
get
just
so
happen?
choked.
Yeah, well,
It did, didn't it? We just...
and I like that what that tells us about Vader is Piet's like, he's going to choke me, right? He's going to choke me? But Vader has already softened from his encounter with Luke. That he doesn't immediately lash out in anger.
Okay, yeah. Because he's alive in Jedi, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Piet's alive, yeah. Piet does not get force choked. He gets an A-wing in the face, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I like the time taken, not only with seeing these cool new ships. We've never seen these ships.
The Y-wings.
But it also just sort of calms you down into, like, the action's over, now it's just the denouement.
Space.
I stole Han's clothes.
Well, I mean, they look the same size.
Yeah. I mean,
For all you know, Han stole his clothes.
Oh,
true.
yeah.
He lost
Those
his
may have
clothes
been
too.
there a long time ago.
But he's buttoned up to be respectful. Takes Wookiees a long time to say, "May the Force be with you too." And he's reunited with 2-1B.
Huh?
This is always so cool, and also just a great sort of like making it okay for kids to not just leave it hanging of like, yeah, Luke doesn't have a hand now.
Mm-hmm.
Now compare that shot to the one in James Cameron's Terminator a few years later
Yeah.
of a hand, the weird, gross Spencer's gifts rubbery
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah, and that
It's
looks
like-
so lifelike and great. Yeah, and I like ending on the act of like we're looking for Han. Something is happening. It's not just doom and gloom.
And everybody, like, as dire as it is, everybody can see the hope, and especially seeing Lando's smile
Yeah.
it gives you a thought that maybe everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, that they're still in the fight.
Yeah. The love boat.
Yeah.
That's a
Thank
good
you,
movie.
Irvin Kershner. Great movie. Yeah, just I think so much attention to just the themes and the emotions of the characters is I think what makes it feel like a stronger film
Yeah.
to a lot of people. Not everyone agrees, obviously. It's Star Wars. Everybody has a different opinion. I wanted to ask you guys during the credits. So it is the middle chapter. There had never really been a movie like this that was just the middle chapter. Do you guys feel like the fact that it is an unresolved story, it is not an entirely self-contained story, do you feel like that knocks it down from being the best film?
I don't think so at all. I think, if anything, this became the archetype for trailers in the future because despite the seeing everybody so down and the heroes down on their luck makes you want to see them succeed so much more like you
Yeah.
would in a regular film from Act 2 to Act 3.
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, that just leaves the audience wanting more and can make it that much more exciting and that much, quote-unquote, better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the adventures will continue. That
Yeah.
there's always going to be a new threat or a new problem to solve or something. I think you made the point earlier about how it's a lot like life,
Mhm.
you know, and it's like this film more than any of them kind of captures that, you know, there really never is a final credits roll, you know.
Right. Yeah, there's never a happily ever after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always something more to do, like come up with an incredibly convoluted plan to rescue Han from Jabba the Hutt.
Which we'll explore in our next watch-along.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. Like, this whole watch-along series has been awesome to be able to explore all of these movies and talk through them without being weird, like looked at as weird, like shut up, let's watch Star Wars. But getting a
Yeah.
chance to relive all of this before Force Awakens has been an absolute thrill, and I can't wait to wrap it up with Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and I think for our Force Awakens predictions, I think we're still on the same page that structurally it's probably going to have a lot of similarities with A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
But I think given all of the things we kind of talked about that make Empire so strong, I think they're also going to be pulling a lot from Empire to give it those darker tones and really try to make you care about the characters and the relationships between them.
And it'll make it a more well-rounded film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a feeling it won't end as completely as Star Wars did. It'll end much more similar to this, you know.
Yeah, where there is some darkness but still some hope and
Well, and some cliffhangers, you
Yeah.
know.
We know we're getting 3 new movies, so
yeah,
Yeah.
and I really hope that there is an active actual cliffhanger.
Yeah.
oh, that'd be rough.
Only 2 years to wait, right?
Only 2.
Only 2 years, and plenty of other Star Wars stuff.
It's
coming.
about time the rest of the Star Wars fandom knew what that level of patience is like. You know?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it is such a different world now. Marvel has connections between the films, but they don't have that direct storytelling.
Right.
So we're used to sequels where it's like, okay, we're going to try to do it again, but kind of continue the story. We're used to now with Marvel a shared universe, but I don't know if we've seen a lot of things like that are a trilogy where it is. It's not the first one again, but it is part of a limited story.
Well, and the difference with the Marvel universe is, if you were a huge Iron Man fan and Iron Man 2 ended in a cliffhanger, there would be another Marvel movie that would keep moving the universe forward, even though you weren't dealing directly with Iron Man, you know. Whereas this, it was like, it was all Star Wars, you know, everything was on pause for 5 years.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and we're going to get back to that kind of because the actual forward movement of the narrative is going to be on pause, but we're going to get a lot of other content, and who knows how many books or comic books they're going to put in between episode 7 and 8.
Yeah.
I have a feeling quite a few.
It'll be great to find out.
Yes. I like that they, on all the special editions, that they have separate, that they leave the normal credits in place and then have separate credits, because there was the credit for Clive Revel doing the voice of Emperor Palpatine, even though he didn't at all in this film that we just watched. We saw or heard no Clive Revel, but then we also have the special effects or special edition credits. Mike, do you have any final thoughts on Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah, well, first I'd like to give a shout out to the people that suggested I be on this episode. I know there were a couple of those, and because it is my favorite one, and I'm honored to be on this particular one. And it was just great seeing it again in this way. This was fun to do.
Great insights, super funny as always, and you didn't get at all sleepy during the torture scene.
No.
So I'm thrilled.
I didn't.
Glad that experience was enhanced for you.
I'm going to take a big nap now that it's over.
You got nothing in the studio. You can just hang out on the couch.
Excellent. Any final thoughts in the last little 2 seconds of the credits?
I'm just happy to be here. It's always been fun. The whole watch along process has been great to actually analyze the movie.
Yeah. And we got one more to complete it, and then The Force Awakens. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can see us on Jedi Alliance every week. Find us on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you very much. Many Bothans died to bring us this watch along.
And this THX.
Stop, THX, stop.
It hurts.
Are we still on YouTube?
No, we're not.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Christian Harloff, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.